Today's video is very special to me and maybe oddly unique to all of you because I'm going to cover a topic which is not very common but yet very famous. So sit tight, brace yourselves as it's going to be a long ride. So today's topic is going to be about Sandman. No, stop. I'm not talking about this Sandman, not the Marvel one, okay? The other Sandman. No, not even this Sandman too. Like oddly similar to this, but a little more dark, gritty, a DC version of Sandman.
And you never knew.
Exactly. So now you have an idea about the Sandman I'm going to talk about, right? So I have got my notes already out here, and as I've already mentioned, it's going to be a long video and a long ride. So have patience, stay with me, and I'll tell you, you won't regret it because there's a lot of information to share about it, and I'm telling you, you will enjoy it. Legend of Sandman. Yes, so even before we start off with the main topic, there is a legend behind the so-called Sandman. So basically the Sandman is a mythical spiritual being originated from European folktale actually, so or you can say folklore. So typically a character is a children's fable stories. We have heard about many fable stories, right? So he's said to put people to sleep. Interesting, right? And bring good dreams by sprinkling magic sand into people's eyes at night. So if you remember the Guardians movie where you have seen Sandman, where Sandman helps children to see good dreams, right? It's kind of like that, right? So the grit in people's eyes when they wake up from sleep. Remember when you wake up and it's supposedly the Sandman's doing. Really? So yes, so this is just the legend of Sandman, which you have already experienced or might have seen in the Guardians movie. But now coming to the DC Sandman, it's a little different than this. Starting with the introduction, Sandman is a comic book series written by Neil Gaiman and published by DC Comics. We all are aware of what DC Comics is, right? Exactly. It was placed under the Vertigo imprint. Hold on, I'll explain what Vertigo is, so don't get confused now. I'll explain it later on the video. It tells the story of Dream of the Endless. It tells the story of Dream of the Endless. Wait, don't get confused. Who rules over the world of dreams. The Sandman was also Vertigo's flagship title, you can see, or maybe it's the one of the flagship properties, as you can say, right? Now, as you critically acclaimed, Sandman was one of the few graphic novels ever to be on the New York Times bestsellers list. Imagine that. And I mean, it was along with Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns, because we knew Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns were also New York Times on the New York Times bestsellers list. Moving forward, it was one of the 5 graphic novels to make Entertainment Weekly's 100 best reads. Imagine that. So now basically Norman Mailer described the series as a comic strip for intellectuals. Exactly. It's not for everyone. So maybe we might be thinking it's for everyone, for all kids. I think so not. Now, various television films, or you can say television version of Sandman, has been developed unsuccessfully since the 1990s. So in the panel of San Diego International in 2007, if I'm not wrong, Gaiman remarked that he would rather see no Sandman movie made than a Sandman movie bad, or than a bad Sandman movie. So that's right. Rather than making a bad Sandman movie, it's better not to make any Sandman movie. We have seen multiples of good storyline or good comic book stories been adapted into movies and which have been a big time failure or a spoil. Yeah, can't help it, right? So it's better not to make them. Who and what is Sandman? So, stay with me. The main character of Sandman is Dream. Not the dream that we see, but something related to that. Also known as Morpheus, not the Morpheus from Matrix or the vampire Morpheus from Spider-Man. And it has many other names. Who is one of the 7 Endless? Now, who are the Endless? Of course, the Endless, all of them are siblings. I'll tell you their names. The other Endless are Destiny, Death, Desire, Despair, Delight, and Destruction. So I believe they are all part of it, because since everyone's name starts with D, so Dream, that is Sandman, is one of them. The series is famous for Gaiman's trademark use of, it's a hard word, it's anthropomorphic personification of various metaphysical entities while also bending mythological and history elements into it. So just imagine it, right? Gaiman introduced a DC character who not only takes from mythological from the mythological aspects, but also dives into the history plus the metaphysical entities. Sounds interesting, right? Where has this character been? We'll see about that. Now, basically this setting was almost an horror setting. Now, Sandman stories are about Morpheus, the Lord of Dreams, is captured and subsequently learns that sometimes change is inevitable. So he's been captured and he learned something about it. Moving ahead, at the start, Morpheus is captured by an occult ritual and held prisoner for 70 years. So Black Adam was captured for 5,000 years, but it has a reason behind it, right? But that's the wizard had captured him. But it's a different story out here. Morpheus escapes, of course, he has to escape in the modern day after avenging himself upon his captors, right? And after he gets released and he has taken his revenge, he rebuilds his kingdom again. Now, moving ahead, the character is usually used to be cruel, but once he's being released, he becomes a little softened. Maybe he learns something or he finds a new way. So if you see, this is basically a dark horror comic. And not only that, as I read this line, the series evolves into an elaborate fantasy series, incorporating elements of classical and contemporary mythology, ultimately placing its protagonist in the role of a tragic hero. Interesting, right? Now, it has to do a lot of things. Now, as you can understand the character, just for a while, forget about Sandman and just recall the characters in DC. Who are the characters in the current DC universe feels similar or related to this? Take your time. Okay, I'll help you out. Number 1 is Hellblazer, of course, Constantine, right? The way he speaks with the undead and with all the other mystical things, it makes me feel that somewhere around both of them will cross paths. Number 2, Swamp Thing, because Swamp Thing is also part, because I feel the whole Justice League Dark might have cross path with this character somewhere around. Theme and genre. Exactly, guys. The Sandman comic book series falls within the dark genre and into a more contemporary and modern setting. Like I said before, it is very dark, not for kids, not for everyone. This kind of reminds me of Darkman and Crow. Exactly, guys, Darkman and Crow. Both of them were amazing movie. Even the Crow comic book was amazing, and it's too sad, just like the Sandman, even after the first Crow movie, no one was able to make another Crow movie. And I feel that line stands perfectly, as Neil Gaiman has said, that rather to have no Sandman movie rather than having a bad Sandman movie. I say the same thing for Crow, rather than having no Crow movie than having a bad Crow movie, right? Not only that it has Sandman was mostly seen in most of the DC comic books, and I'll just show you. These are the ones. You can see these are the comic books where Sandman appeared, or you can see a glimpse of him in those comic books. But later on, as the series moved ahead, they started mentioning less about the DCU characters or other DC related stuff, and it became something of its own, even though it was under the DC universe. Yes. Powers and abilities. Exactly. We've been talking about its history, its introduction, how it came to life, and what Sandman is about. But now, come on, let's talk about its powers and its abilities, right? We know what powers Superman has, what Wonder Woman has, what Batman, not exactly power though, but again, the same thing. So, Sandman here has some pretty amazing powers, and not just one, not just two, there are many of them. It starts with dimensional travel, of course, dream conjuring, scary, dream reality wrapping, not bad, energy absorption, healing, it can heal people too, illusion casting, that's a pretty sweet move, immortality, well, that's kind of a common in most of the characters now, magic, Superman's weakness, metamorphosis, wow, photokinesis, amazing, power distribution, telekinesis, size alteration, on your face, Atom and Ant-Man, sorry, superhuman reflexes, superhuman stamina, superhuman strength, teleportation. My god, he has a whole list of powers, and I would love to see all those powers, even though in comic book we didn't get to see all of them, but pretty much most of them, I could say. Coming to abilities, he has artistry. Yes, come on, he just doesn't have any power, he's not just any other character. He has artistry, insightful, and occultism. There's a group of occult that captured him, and he has abilities of occultism. Not bad at all. He's a damn powerful character, man. Unlike any other character or any other superhero or a villain, everyone has a weakness, right? Everyone has a weakness. Even I have a weakness. Many weaknesses. But coming to Sandman, its weakness is ancient rules. Now what is that? Let's check it out. Despite his great power, Dream, or Sandman, like the rest of the Endless, is bound to a complex set of rules and customs that limit his abilities. One which requires not to spill the blood of family, so he can't kill the other Endlesses. Or he is no longer protected as the personification of Dream from other personification. Okay, so if he spills someone's blood, he's not protected. Kinda interesting. Another is that he cannot fall in love. Oh, wait. With a mortal, or the mortal's downfall is assured. Okay, I don't think it's a bad thing. He can't fall in love with a mortal. So if I'm Sandman, if I fall in love with a mortal, so her demise is for sure, it's assured, right? Okay for me. But okay, I get it. That's not a good thing though. But then again, so he doesn't have to fall in love with a mortal then. But I believe he do in future. Enemies. Everyone has enemies. Every superhero has enemies. But here in Sandman's case, it's kind of not weird, I would say, but it's unique. He doesn't have as an enemy or any arch nemesis kind of a thing. He faces with the creatures of his realm, and also at times he has to face with one of his or more or faces other siblings or the other endless. So talking about enemies, he don't have such kind of an enemies, but yes, he has faced a lot of this DC villains or might have assisted the DC heroes. But if you're talking about enemy, I would say no fixed enemy as such. Maybe the occult, the rituals, as you've seen, those people out there who captured him, people like those, but you can't call them as enemies as in. So, yep, there they are. Before I explain you about the future of Sandman, I've mentioned in the beginning of the video about Vertigo Comics, and I'll tell you what Vertigo Comics is about, right? So here it is. Vertigo Comics, also known as Vertigo Comics or DC Vertigo. It was an imprint of the American comic book publisher DC Comics. It was created in 1993 to publish stories with more graphic or adult content. Totally not for kids, guys. Vertigo is not for kids. Which did not fit within the restriction of the Comic Code Authority. I think they went too far. Or DC's primary superhero brand, thus allowing more creative freedom. These comics were free to contain explicit violences, substance abuse, like nudity, sexuality, profanity, and other controversial subjects similar to films and TV. So they went all out. Like, come on, all out. They could do whatever they want to do. It had everything into it. And of course, it's fully made for adult audience, right? Following a series of editorial restrictions in 2010, DC discontinued it in January 2020, instead publishing later mature readers work under the DC label. Did you got that? I'll tell you again. So this thing was discontinued in January 2020, and instead it was published later under the name of the mature readers work under the DC label. So Vertigo is no more, but it's still there. You can find Watchmen, which comes under also the Vertigo trademark or the Vertigo label, right? So imagine, so this is how dark was Sandman is. I wouldn't mind if in future Zack Snyder decides to make a Sandman movie, because that'll be just perfect. I wish he does that, but then again, he's dealing with his current DC issues and with the Snyder Cut and all those other things. But then again, I would really hope or want to see someone make a Sandman movie, but then again, it has to be good. So we come down to the last point, that is future of Sandman. I know many of you will be thinking, what is now with Sandman? Are we going to get any television series or any movie or maybe any future comic books? Here it is. So various films and television versions of Sandman has been developed, which were unsuccessful since the 1990s. So as we know that Neil Gaiman has already said that rather he would have no Sandman movie than a bad Sandman movie, which is right though. But in 2013, Warner Brothers announced that David S. Goyer would be producing a film adaptation of the comic book. Interesting, right? Of the comic book series with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I'm excited. Within its upcoming Vertigo film slate, Gordon-Levitt dropped out in 2016 after Eric Hesser was brought on as a screenwriter. Too sad. But as of in June 2019, an adaptation is in development for Netflix. So it looks like there is an adaptation of Sandman which is coming in Netflix. So guys, you're finally getting it. So I believe Neil Gaiman finally had that fate, or he believed that the movie can be, or the series can be made in Netflix, because if it would have been if the script would have been horrific or not that good, then Gaiman would have never moved ahead with this Netflix thing. He would have allowed anyone to make it. So I have faith in it, because Netflix has delivered many good comic book storylines. Now, like Daredevil was one of the good, amazing series. Witcher did a really good job. And not only that, moving ahead, in 2020, a full cast audio drama comprising the first 3 volumes of the series was released exclusively through Audible. I've seen that. I've seen the trailer. That's really amazing. Don't worry, I'll play that trailer too. Narrated by gay men, of course. Narrated by gay men, guys. And dramatized and directed by Dirk Maggs, and starring James McAvoy as Morpheus. So who doesn't love James McAvoy? His amazing performance in Split, and of course in Glass, it can't go unnoticed. Okay, so I'm excited for this. I will definitely listen to this this 3 series volume of Gaiman's Sandman. But I'm also excited for a Netflix series. As of now, I don't know the release date, but who knows, with this COVID and everything going around, I can expect it to come around 2021 maybe. So that's it, guys. That was a brief, or I could say that was a detailed and somewhat explanation about what Sandman is. It is something a lot of you may not know about it. A lot of you may not have heard about this Sandman, but this Sandman is a very different approach, and I bet a lot of you will like it. Maybe this current generation or this current times, the people will understand what it is, will get it, and you will all be used to it. So before ending it, I'm going to play the clip of the Audible Sandman. But before that, I'm going to show you some comic books for you to actually read those and get an idea about Sandman, or what Sandman is, right? So coming up are the comic books which you can follow, or the graphic novels which you can follow and have an idea about Sandman. So there they are. Seen those? Exactly. You can read them digitally, or even if you're lucky enough, you can buy them too. So now, before closing in, I'll show you the Audible trailer. So this is Hannibal. Out.
I summon with poison and summon with pain. From the dark they call you, into the dark they call you. Here in darkness we summon you together.